Hello, good evening. This is for a Facebook Live show today with Digital Marketing 101 with our friend Stephan S.Usypchuk and Nathaniel C.Schooler. So I'm going to try to have them online with us if I can have Nathaniel and James, no problem. I don't think that would be very long. And here they are. James, Nathaniel. So good evening for Nathaniel. Good morning for James.
Good morning.
Hello.
So I'm quite happy to have you on my BBTV web TV channel here. And so this broadcast is broadcasted live from the JSU solution pages on Facebook. So Nathaniel, I will leave all the microphone and the place to you. I will be in the behind the scene. So James, when you want to have your presentation going, you just mention slide 1, 2, 3, etc., and I will execute.
Sounds good.
Great, guys. Let's get that started.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's quite an interesting presentation you've got here today, James. I had a brief look at it earlier, and I've made a note of some very useful questions, I think. So I think there's a lot of confusion around marketing, especially for people who are just getting started. A lot of people are confused, and even marketing trainers, they are all generally confused, really, I think, about a lot of things. And I'm looking forward to looking at these slides in a bit more detail and hearing about what you've got to say, really. So I'll let you kick off.
Totally. Thanks, Nathaniel. Thanks, Stephan. Really quickly, I'll share a little story about why we're talking about Marketing 101, because I think it's really relevant to what we created with the JSU program and why I'm revisiting it. So for the longest time, I really took what we do as agencies and marketing experts for granted. I would take for granted the terminology, the concepts, the ideas, and just assume everybody has that fundamental understanding. And what I did was I created a program called JSU I guess I accelerated the concept that I wanted to illustrate in a couple of years, and I basically put it into one group a lot sooner than I expected. We had a big conference at Expo Entrepreneur a couple of weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, and we were featured as an expert on their marketing panel. And we had 8,400 entrepreneurs that were there, and small business owners and founders, and it was a great turnout. We actually sat down and we had appointments with about 300 of them, and a lot of them had no clue where to start. They didn't know the fundamentals, they didn't know the basics, and so I was like, wow, this is a problem, because my agency, we're more high-end and black label in the type of contracts and people we work with, but this was a real opportunity where I saw these people needed help, and the first thing I founded the company on was to help brands grow and tell their story. So this whole concept about JSU and the basics and Marketing 101 is the kind of first step of trying to bring a bit of accessibility of that knowledge back to people who otherwise don't know. So with that said, we can get started, and I can do a little intro on who I am and what my story is about. Can't hear you, Nathaniel. No.
Sorry about that, James. I've just turned my microphone off because I've got a clock behind me, you see, and I don't want it messing up the broadcast. So I think there's certainly a lot of confusion about digital strategy and whether brands should actually have one. And I think a lot of people just think that just being on social media is enough. And I've been mulling over this question because I used to do social media for businesses a few years ago, about 5 years ago, and there's a lot of confusion around it. I mean, what's your view on that?
I think everybody should be on social, and I think everybody should have some kind of marketing plan. It's really important to understand that there's more to it than just the whole adage of build it, they will come. That concept really is old, and it's really ancient in the fact of, well, as long as I build the solution, people will find it and gravitate towards it. But the fact is that I think it was in 2015 there was a study that basically was saying how we are subjected both online and offline to about 15,000 ad impressions per day, which is insane when you think about the amount of attention span that someone has versus the amount of time they're investing in it versus what they're actually going to be. Are they going to take any action? So you have to wonder what's the value in just being on social. And so going back to the old concept of the IDA theory, which is attention, interest, desire, and action. IDA has the concept of wanting to track people, but also do something to the point where you're now giving them a bit of a journey. You're going from a billboard to promotion, so now they're interested. Oh, another billboard or a radio ad, so now they're like, oh, okay, maybe I want this. Or they see a celebrity have it and like, oh yeah, I really want this. And then action, compelling offer to buy. That stuff doesn't really work as well anymore. You kind of see it in more of a traditional sort of funnel where you'll see people that'll jump in and they'll be like, okay, I have a traffic source, and traffic source is paid ads, and now I have landing page, and the landing page is going to offer them a lead magnet or an ebook, and a lot of that stuff was really next level thinking, especially with like products like ClickFunnels and whatnot.
Yeah.
But nowadays it requires so much more. It requires a true brand seduction approach to how do I attract people, how do I get them to know who we are and actually care about my brand as much as I do. And so, just being on social is not enough. Now you actually have to work on, what's the next step, and what's my evolution of the pull. So I'll just jump in. If we can jump to slide 2, I can jump into what we do, and we can kind of go through our expertise, and I can lead into my expertise and the more macro view of the traditional funnel I was talking about.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think that would be great if we jump on to the next slide, Stephan, please. Hopefully we'll get there.
We'll get there. Facebook Live at its best.
Here he is. You can see him working away. Look, thank you, Stephan.
Awesome. So in a nutshell, what do we do? My company, JSU Solutions, was founded 6 years ago, and we are a turnkey full-service marketing agency. My specialty personally is Facebook advertising, strategy, and execution, as well as something I call the conversion matrix. So our team actually goes in and talking about the minimalist funnel that I was just describing with the the IDA concept. Now we're going into the details of how do I create a buyer journey, and how do I take someone from point A to point B to point C all the way to Z, or Z1, Z2, and get them to become a repeat customer. We typically work with we're picky with who we work with. We're very selective. So we work with companies that we believe in. We have to like their core values. They have to match with ours. We have to like what they're offering in terms of USP. We have to like what they're bringing to the table in terms of of a product or a service. And so typically we find ourselves working with companies between 20 to 100 employees, and they usually have about $50,000 to $60,000 marketing budget to work with, and so it's usually a nice healthy budget for us to work our magic. But in the last year and a half, we really have seen a huge demand, especially in Quebec, for people who want more of a solution that is small on the smaller end, but can still give them value. And so what we did was we developed something called the Accelerator, which is targeted towards people who want to do marketing themselves or have a small team, but they don't understand what's the next step, what's the next level. And so that's like a mentorship program. So we created that for them, and we only take 15 to 20 members a year. So that's been a real nice kind of way of working with the people that truly need help with marketing on a level that we can actually deliver good value. And the other thing we launched was something called the JSU program. So I was mentioning it earlier before. It's basically this platform that's subscription based, and in there, we're for the first time ever peeling back the veil of our secrets, as well as giving our own expertise to all the members there. So from talking about the conversion matrix, which I'll go through in this presentation, to what it is we do in terms of coaching, doing one-on-one Facebook Live coaching, doing full-on rebranding giveaways, and doing exclusive content workshops. You name it. We have so much meat and potatoes there that it's our kind of first foray into giving back to the community of entrepreneurs and trying to help them bringing top tier marketing ideas and concepts to an accessible level. So that's in a nutshell. What we do. We're trying to growth hack everything. We're trying to growth hack life. We're trying to growth hack brands. We're trying to growth hack entrepreneurs that are just starting. So this is our first kind of our step in that direction. So we can jump to slide 2, because that's kind of talks a bit about who I am really quickly. So I mentioned I'm a Facebook advertising expert, marketing strategist. I call myself an exponential growth generator because that's my only job really, is to get our clients to the point where they're experiencing exponential growth and they're experiencing some kind of, whether it's exponential growth in ROI, exponential growth in leads, whatever. I'm bringing them to that point. So doing that has been a real kind of nice way to associate myself apart from the rest of the people. I also am a speaker, so I do gone to conferences, spoken at conferences, corporate events, a lot of universities over the last 5 years, and I would like to consider myself somewhat of a change maker for entrepreneurs, founders, and small business owners. So if they're watching this, and you're in that space, then it's something where that's why I created the JSU program. That's where a lot of, apart from working with the large clients that we do have, and we love them, that will never change. We've now created a different portal that is accommodating to all kinds of people who are in different points in their business development. So yeah. Next up, we get to kind of some food for thought, which was a great question you had asked, Nathaniel. Is should people be on social or even on Facebook or Twitter, on LinkedIn? B2B. I'm a service. I'm a recruiter. I really think I'm only on LinkedIn. Is there really a place for me on Facebook? And the next slide, if we can jump to it, Stephan, really goes through some of the mind-blowing metrics to consider. So in 2010, just to give you a little bit of a barometer example, the 1, 2, and 3 is a factor of 1 billion. So for every time the bar hits 1 or 1.2, that's 1.2 billion. So in black is the amount of users on social media, and in white is the amount of users on Facebook. So I'm not an advocate for Facebook by any means, and I don't think Facebook is for everyone, but I think it is for 98% of the people, just because of the sheer volume. So you think a CEO or an engineer or I don't know, someone who's looking for a job doesn't have a Facebook account, that is probably wrong. There's a very strong chance that you look at the amount of people just who have social media accounts, and we're looking in 2017 at almost just under 3 billion. Facebook is tailing behind at 2.1 billion monthly users. So that's something absolutely astronomical to keep in mind. A lot of people don't think that. They still think, oh, well, my grandmother is not on Facebook, or my grandmother is on Facebook, and we have a lot of people that are or aren't part of it. And we start to create this kind of perception that, well, if my 5 friends and my extended friends aren't part of it, then the rest of the world isn't. And that's a fallacy. It's not actually true. You look at the data, it doesn't lie. There's so many people.
So that doesn't matter if you're selling B2B or B2C.
Correct.
It doesn't matter, right? Like, you still need to be there. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll give you a little bit of a little nugget here. Our clients split down the middle, 50-50, or B2B, B2C, and almost all of them are on Facebook for an advertising or a marketing campaign. That ranges from manufacturers, that ranges from finance management. There's a whole rainbow. So there's definitely a place for B2B on Facebook. You can create this hyper-specific buyer persona of who's going to be your ideal client, and then create this buyer experience ecosystem of, oh, okay, this is who's coming on, and oh, okay, I know, what this brand's all about, and hey, we're actually looking for a solution like that. So there's a lot of value to be seen on that side.
Yeah.
So what I would say is there's I would say 4 years ago maybe B2C was 70% and the latter was B2B, but now it's almost a clear split. We get a lot of requests from brands B2B that are they've been looking at hard cold calls and hiring sales, just door-to-door teams, are doing a traditional direct mail or broadcast for B2B outbound, and they're like, well, we've never really tried Facebook. And just the other day, I was approached by another B2B brand, and they have 40 likes on their page, but they're this massive multi-billion-dollar company. So it's kind of like it's a bit surreal in the sense of like how many people that want to be on Facebook and who are on B2B really ignore it. And so now we're coming into this pivot point in our lifetime or in our brand's lifetime where now everybody needs to be on Facebook for lead generation. So it's definitely a point where you have no choice whether you're B2B or B2C. It's kind of inevitable. So so if we go to the next slide here, Stephan. So I wrote an article. I think it was 20. I can't really feel old now. In 2015, I wrote an article that basically said Facebook has over 2.2. Well, at the time it was 1.98, but now it's 2.2 billion active users.
It's insane.
It's insane. I mean, when I started with Facebook and I really niched myself, from the get-go, did I really think Facebook will become the monopoly it is? There's no way, right? I just saw something that was just starting, and I was like, well, this is, there's definitely value and demand, but at the same time, I was kind of taken aback by how much there actually was. And so when you look at it today, just the sheer volume, and even if there's influx of in and out, right? Think about all the acquisitions that Facebook has made from Instagram. They tried to buy Snapchat. It's no secret they're constantly trying to innovate to develop this kind of forever ecosystem where people can work and not just live, but be given a good experience where they want to be there. So recently, Facebook launched an initiative to kind of change the way that the platform works because they discovered that their overall sentiment, meaning how do people feel on the platform when they're there, was net negative, meaning that it was always bad. That's kind of like a tough, harsh reality for a multi-billion-dollar enterprise that prides itself on its people. I mean, believe it or not, talking about marketing 101, the people are the product. We are the product of Facebook. Facebook is using us as a leverage point for advertisers like myself to go and purchase time in front of you. So if people aren't happy, people are going to leave. So they were kind of smart and thinking, well, maybe they won't leave tomorrow, but what about in 2 years? What does that leave us? They're just going to open the door up for another opportunity for someone else to jump in and create something that people enjoy. And I've already seen it, right? So you have, I know you guys like MyBB, and I've seen Vivo or Vito as well. And there's a couple that are popping in and out, but it's largely to create a net positive sentiment area that people can engage in. So going back to Facebook, there's just so much volume there that even if it is net negative, all the changes that are being made force you to kind of really think, how can I advertise to these people? How can I attract them? And 2 years ago, or even a year ago, it was a lot more affordable to advertise just because the cost was lower. The amount of advertisers on Facebook was not what it is today. So with that in mind, the cost has gone down, but the cost has gone up, and so has the demand. And because the demand has gone up, now you have people that with the $200 monthly budget could have spent something and actually got 10 or 15 leads last year. Now they're getting 1 or 2 and freaking out and calling us. And so it's a whole different way of thinking. And now you have to really think, okay, how can I go beyond just advertising? And that's kind of where you get into funnel marketing and like I keep talking about the conversion matrix, but that's how you get to that point. It's a great transition.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of problems with low quality ads, and obviously that's the major reason: bad targeting, low quality ads, etc. So That's all fantastic, James. Really great information. But for people who are either B2B or B2C, it doesn't really make any difference. And they're just starting out. I've got a question here that I wrote down earlier. A lot of people, they don't have the budget for this. So where do they start in using Facebook and other? Well, is it where do they start really to grow their business?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to what do you want to do with your brand, your product. Where does that leave you? So the first thing you have to do is you have to ask yourself 5 questions. And it starts with any product. You ask yourself, who will buy from me? Why would they? What makes me different? How will I reach them? And where are they? If you can answer these 5 questions, you can make a marketing strategy, and it will cost you nothing. This is probably one of the most common mistakes I see is people will jump in and they will say, okay, I need to attract customers to my restaurant. That's great. Every other restaurant needs that. So this is how you differentiate yourself. You start asking those 5 questions. Who will buy from me? Okay, well, my restaurant's really swanky and upscale. Our price range, if you look on TripAdvisor, is $5 signs or $6 signs. So I know I'm probably not going to get the college grad that's going to come here, right? So I'm looking for maybe a more upscale, someone who probably identifies with a Frank Sinatra or a Tony Bennett. Well, right away, you've answered a big question of why, and you've already started to kind of create this buyer persona of, okay, this is the kind of person I want in my restaurant. This is who's going to buy from me. This is going to drop $800 on wine and caviar and call it a day. The other question is, why would they? Are you giving them experience? Are you giving them some kind of unique sensation? Is it? Are you dining in the dark? Is it? What's so special about your location? Is it because of the reviews? Do you have a world-renowned chef? Do you have food that nobody else has? Are you the only seafood place for 3 miles? Like, what is it that would attract a person? So let's say it is seafood, and you've already identified your swanky customer. You can add to that someone who loves seafood. Now you're really building a highly targeted persona. What this will do on the macro level is, when you decide to run an ad, brand awareness, local brand awareness, and you put in your audience these modifiers and say, oh, I want this 34 to 65 and makes 500 grand a year in revenue. Well, hang on a second. Now you're telling me that of the advertising I'm doing, I'm actually targeting exclusively my target customer. Exactly. That's only answering 2 questions. That's how powerful this exercise is. Yeah. So, and the next thing is, what makes you different, right? So you've answered the why. Now it's what? Is it customer service? Is it because you have velvet chairs? Like, just really give them a sense of who you are. So on your Facebook page, I would literally put a video on the cover of like your chef's preparing your famous dish, or the place hopping and you're doing a time lapse of it being full and then emptying and full again. That will really set you apart, is because you're going to see people want to see something that we gravitate. We kind of have this like subconscious mob mentality where we gravitate towards where there is a crowd, and we like to see what's happening, what's going on. We're naturally curious, and believe it or not, if there's nobody there, then you have to try and attract the early adopters who don't. They're not shy to try something new, but the majority of people gravitate towards where the path has already been paved for them. So that's a real important thing. But if you can do that, you're now giving them a sense of like, oh, this is what it is. This is awesome. I love this. I love this experience. I'm not even there yet. I haven't even tried it. But 5 reviews, a time-lapse video, I'm sold. This looks like an amazing time. Now the question is, how are you going to reach them? Everybody thinks Facebook ads, but it's not only the case. Just because I'm a Facebook ad specialist doesn't mean I tell everybody I coach do Facebook ads. You can do something, and this was the advice I kept repeating at that conference. You can do influencer marketing. Find 15 or 20 foodies that are on Instagram who literally don't write blogs. They just capture shots of food. Invite them all, give them a free stay in exchange for some TLC on their tender loving care on their Instagram page, and connect to you. That's all, the only currency you care about. You care about the vetting from their audience and from their own image onto your brand, so that you can say, oh wow, this person said you have to go here. Well, now it's a little bit more than what's the what's happening around now, it's, Tom, Dick, and Harry saying this is the place to be, and Tom, Dick, and Harry only go to the best. So that in itself is a very powerful way of reaching out to people. The other thing is we can do a Facebook Live, like what we're doing right now. You can actually go in and literally sit down next to your customer and ask them if they want to do a Facebook Live with you, and that can be your pull. You can use that as a method of attracting people. If you don't want to go to bloggers or foodies, you can go to local celebrities, local. I don't know, if you're in a really religious community, and it's you can go to a religious figure like a rabbi or somebody who's very carries a lot of weight when he speaks. That's totally okay. As long as you disclose that this is like a working relationship. The whole thing with Instagram and influencers in the last last 3 months or 4 months was now they have to disclose which kind of influencer deals and partnerships are being made, or else it's kind of taboo, which I agree with. I think it's about being transparent, but at the same time, you have to take into consideration that influencers most likely than not don't just take any customer that gives them money. It has to fit their ideal, or else nobody's going to go, and nobody's going to trust this guy again if he's to a bad restaurant. So that's a real core component when figuring out how to reach your guy or your ideal type A customer. And the final question is, where are they? So we can go into that a little bit later, but essentially, identify which platform it is. So if you know the platform, you know how you understand the metrics that you're interested in. So if it's Instagram, you want follows, you want engagement, how many people like and comment and share. If it's Facebook, you want page size, you want also engagement. If it's Twitter, you want followers, you want to know retweets, you want to know, like, do they pin tweets, all that kind of stuff. Understanding the platform will help you understand who to target, which will help answer your how will I reach them. And that will also help tie in the what makes you different, how can I place myself on that platform, and kind of go through the sequence methodically. But it's a real legitimate exercise that not enough people do, and when you start to do it, you start to see the people flock in, or the leads flow in. It's really more simple than people think, and it's the fundamentals that are really important going forward. So the next question is, I just kind of went over this. You have to understand, who will buy from me? Is it a millennial? Is it a brand? Is it a B2B? And you have to, kind of what I was just saying about influencers, the important thing is to know not everybody's a customer. Usually, unless you're a brand that starts with W and ends with Mart, they're about the only one that they would have almost anybody as a customer. And their business model is a little different, where they beat the best price with their trademarked specials and whatnot. But at the same time, I'm an agency. I have a particular aesthetic. I have a particular set of core values that I hold very dear. The question becomes, who do I want to work with, right? I've refused more people than I've taken on the last 6 years, just because I don't believe in their idea. I don't believe in their product. I don't like the person. That has to line up. I mean, Nathaniel, I'm sure you can attest to that when we're talking about personal branding. There's a lot of people you have to really click with, or else it doesn't work out.
Well, you know that they're going to complain. You know that they're going to be difficult to deal with. You know they're going to cause you a headache. They're going to be rude to your team. And if they don't understand that very quickly from the moment they kick off working with you, then I think you need to just get rid of them. Unfortunate, but I think sometimes you may need to fire them, and then it makes room for good clients, right? I mean, the more bad ones you get, the closer you become to finding the right clients, right? I mean, that's how I look at it.
It's so true. It's so true. You're bang on.
And also you got to reduce that 80-20, 20% of your money, 80% of your effort, and the 80% of your time for 20% of your money. And I think the more choosy you are, the more profitable your business is going to be, and the better life you're going to have for your team, and your staff retention's better. There are so many reasons. So, and then your clients rave about you. They become raving fans, and they tell all their friends. And it's like, it's just so much better, much better.
It's so amazing when you're talking about clients and what they'll say about you. Up until about 2017, I would say May, we never advertised ourselves. We had grown exponentially every year just from word of mouth.
Yep.
That's a powerful thing when my specialty is paid ads and going after people and advertising brands. So it's so true. I mean, my business is proof of concept that word of mouth carries you so far. I get maybe a couple of emails every few weeks that say, "Hey, what's I was referred to you by so and so in Toronto," and I'm like, okay, I'll have to go through my catalog and see how many people I know in Toronto. Or I was referred to you by so and so in California. I was like, no way. Like it's such a small world, but just that alone carries so much weight.
Yeah.
It does a lot of things. It pre-vets a person. If it's coming
Yeah.
from a person I trust and they're coming through that channel, I trust it a lot more than if it's someone who is kind of foreign,
Yeah.
who's kind of feeling the waters, trying to get a bidding war going for lowest price. In which case I back out right away. There's a lot of value into looking for who's how are they coming from and so on and so forth. Yeah, the best website you can check out is our website, JSUsolutions.com. There's a link as well at the end of the presentation which references the JSU program. So
Cool.
I'll go over that later. But yeah, essentially, same thing as my business as in yours, Nathaniel. Understanding the buyer is absolutely vital. From who will buy from me to do I want to work with them? That's another question to ask yourself.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
So yeah. Let me see. So talking about where your audience is, can you give me a quick overview over the main platforms and who you might find there? Really, that would be quite helpful for the people watching, I think.
Yeah, of course. So typically on Facebook, you'll get a lot of Gen X, later or older millennials, so between 28, 27, and going into 40s and 50s easy. I know the baby boomer generation, the Gen X generation, they're definitely the most predominant there. So, an example, you're a B2B brand and you're trying to target an engineer 10 years in the field, and you still got another 15 years to go. Just by job title and a couple of interests like CATIA programs, Innovia, whatever, you can really pinpoint out. It's definitely on Facebook, and the audience is about 230,000 I can advertise to. So they're definitely on there. Twitter, it's predominantly male centric, very popular with sports brands, very popular with because it's such a fast-paced environment, right? I think a tweet lasts all of like 3 minutes in terms of like its actual impact, and then you have to do it again, or you have to figure out like what's the next way I can give value. That in itself is it's so potent for some brands that are very immediate, very instant. So let's say it's an event and you have a lot of people participating and they want to express themselves and want to jump right away. Twitter is an excellent platform. I believe they're heavily 29 to 44 age range in terms of the demographic you find. It's definitely more male centric, but so you look at one of the most successful niches for Twitter is definitely sports. If you look at the NFL, if you look at Super Bowl, if you look at CFL, you look at Grey Cup, you look at Montreal Canadiens, you look at Toronto cricket, you're going to get a lot of people engaging really quickly, and so you're going to find a real successful niche there. Instagram, you have more millennials there that are more on the side of because you have two kinds, right? You have I think they're called the digital nomad generation, where they're the younger version of the millennial, or the newest generation. They're primarily on Snapchat, but Instagram, you have a huge millennial following. A lot of them want to be into the modeling, or they follow Instagram. They follow their influencers who are, let's say, they're in fitness, or they're in nutrition, or they're in traveling, or they're in restaurant business, or they're in food. Anything that is very visual, you're going to find it there. You're going to find that type of customer there. So you're definitely, if you want to target millennials and still have a strong ad buying potential, Instagram is a great platform that you can really tackle. The other thing is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is probably my favorite platform, even though I'm a specialist in Facebook. LinkedIn is very B2B heavy. When I say that you can do both B2B and B2C on Facebook, I would say that the same is not necessarily true for LinkedIn. It's very touch and go. I'll give you an example. If I'm a real estate broker and I'm trying to get people to list their home with me, I will have a lot of success in acquiring leads on Facebook or Instagram. But if I try to do the same thing on LinkedIn and do an outbound campaign of messaging people and trying to connect relationships, the amount of effort put in versus the amount of impact received, and the amount of pushback you'll get it's not worth the risk, or it's not worth the amount of time you'll spend in it. So talking about the 80-20 rule, this is a great example. So
Yeah.
LinkedIn is heavy B2B. We get a lot of our leads from LinkedIn as well, and it's definitely you definitely have more of a male centric. But I would say in the last 2 years I've seen the female populace go up in terms of activity and predominance on there. It's great for recruiters. It's great for anybody who has a product that I would say is more than $100 or $500, and they've identified clearly who their audience is. So if I have startup tech and I have a SaaS product and I want to give them a free demo, I can easily target them in you use Sales Navigator. You go into the search and just say, boom, I know who I'm looking for. I'm looking for CFOs and CMOs of startup tech, and they have less than 5 employees. And I just start connecting with them, try to do an icebreaker of some kind, or invite them to an event, or invite them for coffee, and go back and forth and offer them a free demo. It's like, listen, I love your opinion. You guys are in this space. We're just penetrating it. I'd love to know what you think. And no strings attached. You're gonna get a lot of bees with that kind of honey. So LinkedIn's very powerful for that end.
That's very valuable information, James. Yeah. Thank you. That's great. I mean, I think we could talk about platforms all day long. There are so many platforms. I did a training course a few years back when I was working with an agency doing some work for IBM, and the amount of social platforms out there it is absolutely ridiculous. There are so many. I think there are over 600, 650, maybe, probably 800, 900 now.
I'm scratching the surface here. What I'm doing over these, there are the big players are Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest. But I mean, we haven't even talked about Reddit. Reddit has the most powerful, passionate fan base that is highly scrutinized when it comes to being advertised to. But if you can really make your way into that market, you get instant brand evangelists that will push your product into oblivion. It'll pay dividends immensely. I know.
But they don't like being sold to, do they? A lot of people, and that's the major problem, isn't it? It's targeting the right people at the right time, really.
Yeah, it's all about authenticity and really being part of the community before you had a motivation. That's the really important thing, to understand the ecosystem and to understand what works for them, and to really give value, and then some more value, and then propose something. I find Reddit's really good for products. It's really good for if you want to do. There's a huge entrepreneur community. I think it's like 93,000 on their subreddit forum. There's a lot of different niches. Yeah, so there's definitely like a nut to crack there. It just requires a lot more TLC. In the recent or the next couple of years, I would say the next thing is to find someone or develop some kind of approach where you can really give them more added value when you're marketing on Reddit. That's the real value there, is to create that sense of relationship and back. No, you're not trying to just get a quick dime. It's those that don't invest. I mean, the concept conversion matrix that I keep talking about, it relies on this concept, but essentially, if you just try to push your product or pull an audience to your product cold, you're gonna get stumped and hammered with a bunch of negative feedback and saying this is disgenuine, I hate this product, and the adverse effect will happen. You'll actually get a lot of negative feedback that'll damage your brand, or it could very well ruin your brand. I've seen CEOs overthrown because they didn't ask me anything and it didn't end up the way they wanted it to, and so now they have to go through this whole PR thing, and it's a mess. So Reddit's beautiful, but it's also you have to know what you're doing. But just to your point, Nathaniel, I've scraped the surface. I haven't even talked about WhatsApp. I haven't even talked about WeChat. I haven't talked about Viking. There's so many other.
Well, there are categories. I mean, there are probably 30 different categories, right? I mean, it's pretty insane, really. But I think sticking with the ones that are working right now is the way to go. I mean, we're very big into personal branding, as you know, right? And so we use bb.com, which is absolutely brilliant. But I think your conversion matrix, I'm quite excited to actually hear a bit about that. So did you want to kind of, should we move on to the next sort of slide? Because I know we've got like, we're doing some of these for the next few weeks, right? We're doing another 11.
This plan. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's quite exciting. And I think if we give everyone all this information right now, it might be kind of a bit much for them. So yeah, sorry, I missed this question a minute ago. It popped up. It's difficult because I got my camera up here and my phone over here and the laptop over there and then the microphone. I had to move because I was kind of uncomfortable. So sorry to. It's the first time I've done this from this new venue. You see, it's great spot here.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
I like the purple couch.
It's cool and it fits in with your brand colors. So I especially found this the purple here for the JSU solutions. So will you be offering online training webinars open to solopreneurs is what
so
this
the
question
short answer to that is absolutely. We're going to be, so we launched this program called the JSU group. It's a paid group platform. There's a link, basically grow.jsusolutions.com/JSU. You'll see the link later on, but essentially it's all the stuff I'm talking about to the nth degree. I'm going into detail. I'm going into strategies I've learned. I'm not really holding back anymore. I'm taking what we would do in our mentorship program and what we do for our clients, and I'm cramming it into digestible bite-sized pieces month by month. And so we're going, I think March is actually Facebook month. And so we're going to go through ad strategy. We're going to go through concepts. We're going to go through the fundamentals of it. Then we have a couple other months. LinkedIn, I'm going to have special guests. I'm going to have people that, I have very good relationships with that I'm going to get. We have special prices on their software and their services or their, whatever offering they have. It's all about fostering a community that can actually be enabled and have accessibility to a product. So that's already been launched, and everybody will get to see it again. I'm going to jump into the conversion matrix, but I first want to just touch on what a traditional funnel looks like really quickly, just so people can get where I'm coming from, where we developed the conversion matrix. So essentially, it goes from paid ads, so a Facebook ad, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever, to a lead magnet. That's usually an ebook or something where you're trying to capture an email. Then it goes to a thank you tripwire, which basically you put a pixel and then you retarget people. It also goes through an email.
So hold on, let's stop a second, because there are going to be many people that have got no idea what a funnel is. They've got no idea what a pixel is, and this is going to confuse them, and they're going to bounce off and disappear. So first of all, a funnel is a way of educating the consumer or the purchaser that your service is right for them, the product is right for them, or the service is right for them at the time when they need it, right? That's where a funnel is. And a funnel is an educational process map of where a person becomes someone who knows nothing about this product or service that might be perfect for them, to the point of them holding their hand up and saying they're ready to buy, right?
That's right. Okay. So traditional funnel has maybe 4 or 5 elements to it, and then it's all about repetition and how can I refine and so on and so forth. So this takes into account the IDA principle I was talking about. So attention, interest, desire, and action. So I mean, if you literally just split it up and started dividing it by chunks, you could see the first 2 steps are attention, second is interest, and so on and so forth. But this concept is a little old.
I agree. The lead funnel's broken, James. It's broken into pieces.
It doesn't work anymore. It really doesn't. And what happens with this, just for frame of reference, is people will start doing it. They'll see it to start working, and then 2 weeks later, their cost goes from, okay, I'm getting an email of a legitimate lead at $8. Now it's $30 because it's not effective. It works for maybe 0.1% of people you're trying to attract. So we came up with this solution 5 years ago of how to map a proper funnel. We called it the conversion matrix. So
where did you come up with that name, James? Conversion matrix.
That's a great question. For the long time, we were calling it the growth hacking funnel. But I sat down with our team and we were like, guys, we got to call this something better. And I sat down with my lead copywriter, Travis, and we had a good laugh, and we were just going back and forth, and we're like, you know what, this is kind of like the Matrix, where you're jacked in and you know everything's just happening to you, and you're seduced by it, you enjoy it, but not in a creepy way, in a way of like, this is an experience I want, this is an experience I covet. And so that's how we kind of got the name Matrix. And then conversion, well, that's the whole point, it converts people. So we called it the conversion matrix.
For the people that don't understand what a conversion is when someone buys something. A conversion is when someone has actually paid the money and the money's in the bank, right? It's not a, oh yeah, I'd love to buy that kind of stuff. A conversion is, here's the money, I'm pushing the button, and here it is, push the button, right? So you mentioned something called a pixel earlier. I know what a pixel is. And most people probably watching this are not going to know what on earth a pixel is. So what is a pixel?
A pixel is a line of code that we basically paste into a landing page or a website. And based off of where we place it, it tells us what action they did. So I'll give you an example. If I send them an ad, the ad goes to a landing page, and the landing page asks for an email. I place a pixel on the landing page before they give me the email, so I know they got there.
Okay, let's stop a sec.
Sure.
A landing page, right? What's a landing page?
Mini one-page website. Very simple. It has one function. A landing page is, let's say, well, I'll give you an example. The link at the end of this presentation is a landing page. It has one function. Cool. Yeah. So it's just basically, I only want to have your focus on one thing. What you're going to get inside, and an email capture, or you're opting in for something. So right now, the pixel, let's just be really simplistic about the pixel. The pixel is just tracking someone's behavior, so then you know more about them, and you can actually potentially target them somewhere else on a different platform, or even on Facebook or somewhere else, so that you can follow them around and actually deliver something they might not have purchased. They might have visited a page where they just filled in their details. Maybe the doorbell rang, or maybe they spilt their tea on their laptop and they forgot all about you. So then you can go and track them, and then you're away, right? Well, I'll give you another example. So let's say I'm trying to sell art, because I see Joyce, Kristen Murphy is on the video.
I spotted that.
Yeah, she's awesome. So let's say I'm trying to sell art, and I want people to see my most expensive collection, and I want to attract them. I show them an ad, and I don't tell price. I just say, click to learn more, and they see my beautiful piece of art. They click to learn more, and they see it's $10,000. I'm like, for the buyer persona I'm looking for, that's too expensive for me. So then they leave. Because they landed there, I know that they went but didn't convert, right? So it's we'll call it like an abandonment. So the next thing I do is I take the people who went there and redistribute another ad for something like a special or an offer. So let's say I see something else that is identical in style, but took me less time to make, and is smaller, and I say, hey, sorry you weren't interested in this. I'm giving a one-time only offer, and it's $350. I'm like, whoa, 10 grand, $300.
Boom, and they buy it there and then.
Exactly.
So, okay, thank you for clearing that up. I know you're going to go into a lot more detail on that later in the further videos. I think we need to certainly put a good piece of content around that, so people can really understand the capabilities, the possibilities of tracking, and actually what you can do with it. But in the meantime, the conversion matrix that you're talking about, what are the nuts and bolts, the real simple elements that people can get in their head from this matrix, please?
So the nuts and bolts are essentially, here's what it does. The conversion matrix basically makes a algorithmic proof way of advertising and reaching customers. You don't have to pay ads, but you have to find a way to get a traffic source. So by doing, by building this kind of sequence, you can now say, okay, I know that every time I put people through this journey, I'm going to get a consistent result, which is a big problem today. You ask about organic reach and how people were relying on it. Now it's like an afterthought. Ever since we've been doing this, we have clients that have been on the same matrix we built them 2 years ago, and we're still getting the constant. We have like a bit of I would say 8% market inflation, but we're still getting a consistent cost per lead, cost per conversion. So that's the main point. That's the main purpose.
Cool.
On
So
top of
it's
that,
basically you spend $1 and you get back 10 or 5 or 3 or 2.5 or 20 or whatever it is, right? Like that's the main aim, is actually this is what I'm spending. This is the time and the cost per sale. How much does it cost me to get a sale, right? That's what we're talking about here.
Exactly. So not only that, but it also constantly drops the cost. That's the idea, is as we create, and it focuses on the principle of creating touch points. So one point I have here is that essentially it's a whole bunch of stuff, but it's basically a buyer's journey on steroids. That's what it is. It really focuses on creating value and giving value to the point where people say, this is a no-brainer. This is really what I'm looking for. I've been obsessing over it for the last 3 weeks and I can't get out of my head. I need to buy this, or I need to jump in and go to this restaurant, or I need to hang that piece of art on my wall because I'm afraid, because it's one of a kind, I will lose out on it, and it's perfect. But I'm also obsessed with what it can bring me, what value it means to me. So, and an example, we did this same concept for a big organization in Quebec, and they had 52 different entities. And so what we did was, we took this, we made it at a micro level, and we basically attributed, we give every entity its own buyer persona, and then we put them through this journey of a piece of content, so a Facebook post, and then a video, and then if they saw the video, we sent them another post, and then we sent them another a link to visit something. We before we asked for anything, we literally put them through an experience. Now, what the matrix does is it focuses on the transactional approach of attention. Attention is a currency, and a lot of people forget that. So the idea is that we're constantly getting to a point where every little step we're taking point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, point 5, up until point 15 or 30 or 100, depending on the product, and we're looking for how many times can we buy your attention? How much time can we ask for it? Even a click is a form of currency. So that's what this does, and this is what it facilitates: is that process of decreasing the cost, creating an algorithm, almost algorithm-proof solution, because this can be done with ads, can be done with influencer marketing, can be done with Facebook Live. You could have zero ad budget, you could still apply this. The tricky thing is that one of the slides I had is there's a lot of components to it. So just because it has a lot of things doesn't mean it's impossible. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's great, you lost me. There's no way I can build this. That's not true. So the whole reason why I built the JSU group is to educate and teach this part. So this requires a lot more than one video, as you can see. Just going back and forth with you, Nathaniel, I could talk on this stuff for days. But
hey, I know we could talk for weeks on this.
Yeah,
man.
Exactly.
I think next we're going to share lots of these secrets, right?
Yeah.
And in the group, there's going to be lots of great information in there.
That's right.
So I'm quite excited to be involved. It's very interesting, and
it's very exciting.
It's transformational for people as well, to have that expert guidance, which is going to take their business from zero potentially up to 10, 20, 50K a month, right?
Well, it could be even more. It depends, right? I mean, we've
Depends
already
where they are.
people where they're like, they started at, oh, I have this idea, and I only have $250. What do I do with it? And we have all these different steps they can follow, and different trainings I give, and one-on-one lives that now they're saying, oh, okay, well, I can do that. That's bite-sized. That's simple. That's measurable. I can actually apply it. So that's the whole point. That is the only reason I developed this program, is to create something that is accessible and as easy as I can make it, so that they can apply it on their own. This is the real meat and potatoes here. So just quickly, kind of wrapping up here, it's a buyer's journey on steroids. It can be applied for both B2B or B2C on any platform. It breaks up the IDA principle into dozens of measurable steps. And it can vary in complexity for, you're either selling a $100,000 product, or you're selling a $9.99 opt-in, or you're just trying to get an ebook, or you're trying to drive people to your actual restaurant, pub, event. There's really, I've applied this in so many different ways, and it's worked great. In some instances, the more complex the price, the more touch points we need. But this is where, how can I make our own? How can you make your own? I would strongly suggest to visit our group called the JSU program. So the link is grow.jsusolutions.com/JSU. And in it, there is so much stuff, Nathaniel, you wouldn't believe. Like, I remember when I first started telling you about it, you were kind of like jaw hit the floor. I had to scrape it up with a shovel. There's a lot of stuff, talking from exclusive JSU content. The conversion matrix is exclusive JSU content. I have built this myself from the ground up. Nobody see. I gave a webinar with Hootsuite last week. It was the first time I ever disclosed what the hell it was and how it worked. So this is really the meat and potatoes of my identity, what I've done, and I want to start sharing it, because I think it's to a point where people need to have this accessible. We're also doing something called Marketers Collection. We have tools we've developed, templates. We're giving that all for free in the group. There is no upsell. This is what it is for the time being. We'll eventually probably make custom tools made for that group exclusively. Like, I'll give you an example. I was talking with Stephan, like, funky Chrome extensions that'll do your advertising for you. I don't know. Like, I have a couple of ideas that are kind of like stewing in there that we're going to develop as well. We have marketing templates. It's an ultimate networking resource. We're going to be having events. Our guys will get free entry into the event. They're going to have opportunity to network with people, learn from experts. I have a laundry list of panel experts that I will be interviewing and bringing in and going back and forth on a dialogue over the next year. So it's going to be really exciting. You're obviously going to learn marketing strategies beyond the conversion matrix. A lot of people ask about influencer marketing. They're going to get in there. There's going to be a live Q&A with me personally, at least once a month. Depending on popularity, we might do it a bit more. This stuff people pay $1,000 for, flat out, for a 90-minute session. I'm not even joking. So I'm putting that in there for free as a thank you. I'm trying to help as big as I can. We're going to be doing live, like Facebook Live, creating buyer personas, and also doing competitor analysis and giving you reports. So there's going to be a lot of like juicy, actionable, holy smokes, I can't believe this is happening content going on in there. And like I said, we're going to have a spotlight series as well, picking entrepreneurs we like and going through what they're doing well and how they can do it themselves. So that's my kind of Cole's notes. If you want to know about the conversion matrix, you want to know how to apply it, go visit the grow.jsusolutions.com/JSU, and you will actually, we'll show you the step-by-step, and you'll get so much more value than just that. You'll actually see the measurable results of seeing your business grow by being a member. So it's a very exciting time.
So that was quite great.
Thank you.
I think like people like it a lot because actually it's first authentic.
Yeah.
And you've been very generous by bringing so much on the table for the audience. Actually, I was behind the scene helping you to shuffle the slides, but at some point I see that you've surprised me, and that's quite a hard thing to do. Because actually, the slide were remotely controlled by James inside a remoted control system, and I loved it. At that point, I said, if someone is doing my job, that's good.
Yeah, well, it was fun.
Wow.
I was on the platform and I was like, wait, is this me or is this Stephan? I'm like, oh man, it's me. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like two pilots on the same airplane. Like, I'm steering left, he's steering right. So I decided, you know what, James, you want to be the pilot? Okay, I'm going to talk with these stewardess in the back of the plane. All right, see you later.
Yeah, that was great.
Thank you for landing. I'll be there. And the other part that surprised me as well was the part where people liked it a lot, because we didn't make any big powwow and yelling in the street that, hey, we're going to be live there, haha, come and see us. Actually, I think the current statistics were 94 people were absolutely, coming there, and watching simultaneously. And then I was looking at the gauge, and I was saying, 25 people, 60, 79, 120, 268. Like, whoa! All right. It's like,
thank you,
what's gonna
guys.
happen when we're gonna knock at doors before and send some invitation? That's probably promising.
Thank you.
And
Great job.
was the first of one of a kind, right? Like again, it's authentic, it's international because we are both sides of the Atlantic, different timetables. People seem to have been entertained. That's quite, when you're doing something for your career, your online business, your B2B company, right? And then you're just, like, how hell, everything that you will see out there is only advertisement or like elevator pitch, etc. In fact, you don't have like a buffet, right, where you can understand, go back and rewind. Like, okay, what is a conventional funnel? What is funnel? What does conversion is? What a metric is? That's very helpful for people when they know that. So I think we have a weekly appointment then, James, right? That would be the JSU solution Wednesdays. And that would be a rendezvous with the audience then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anything to add for today?
Just be sure to visit the JSU or grow.jsusolutions.com/the JSYOU, and you'll be able to get your hands on all the stuff we talked about today.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more about what we're saying, then please come and visit next week and or message us. We're real people, right?
Absolutely. The whole point about this is that we're real people.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Stephan. Thanks very much, James.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
Anytime soon for some more adventures about what organic outreach can do for you, paid outreach can do for you, and everything that in terms of marketing and online marketing you can have. Or think about it. You will find it with these JSU Solution weekly updates.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks
for today, guys. Take care.
Take care.
Good job, dude.